Nithyananda, everybody! Today I am so excited to talk about the first time I had a full outer body experience. The first time I experienced ego death, as some may call it, as I literally left my body and did not have any existence whatsoever in this form, was without any drugs, any alcohol, no substances, which I think is the coolest thing. I think from a lot of people think you can only achieve an experience like this where you're fully out of the body through substances, psychedelics, DMT, things like this, acid, mushrooms, whatever. But I'm telling you, the most potent, powerful experience I ever had actually in this dimension was solely through one death meditation that I experienced in India under my guru Paramahamsa Nithyananda. So about 2 years ago, at my first retreat here in India called Inner Awakening, we went through this one process called the death meditation. And after a few hours of writing out goodbyes to every single person we knew, so we spent time, we had to visualize exactly what scenario we were going to die in. So whatever we thought we were going to die. So I remember I thought that I had gotten a car accident and then I was in the hospital and I was really, really injured, but I was like hanging on for life. And this is what I was writing from that perspective. And I wrote and said goodbye to every single one of my best friends, my boyfriend, my parents, my brother, everything. And it was probably one of the weirdest and most heartbreaking things I've ever experienced. But it was actually a really beautiful experience because it was so peaceful, so much more peaceful than I thought it would be. When you're actually in that moment, I actually felt so much so sad within myself. And it's like I just knew, okay, it's just time to go and I'm going on to the next thing. But I knew it was harder more for them than me. It was really interesting. But anyway, so that was the beginning part. We spent time and then we had to go through each of these letters we wrote each person and like live it like we were experiencing it. Okay? And then the second phase was where we all actually laid down. Hundreds of us were in this hall and we laid down completely flat on the ground with our body completely outstretched in Shavasana, if you know yoga. Everyone's favorite yoga pose. And I was laying dead on the ground. And Paramahamsa Nithyananda, Swamiji, he was sitting up on the stage and he actually personally led us through this verbally. So he starts doing some chants and then he leads us through basically like we're losing sensation. First we start in the toes. So slowly, like bit by bit, this goes on for hours. We're doing this. So slowly, so in detail, we go through each part of the body, moving up from the toes till the head. And it starts and it's like, once it happens, it's like you literally start losing feeling in that part. So you start thinking, slowly you feel yourself coming out of your hand. And now you're not feeling your hand anymore. No movement is in the hand. And you go up all the way. And Swamiji is also just creating the space because he's enlightened, right? He can pass certain experiences onto us just in his physical presence. So I know a lot of it had to do with him, obviously, not just the meditation itself. So I start losing sensation from my toes all the way to my head. It's the weirdest feeling. I start feeling like I seriously don't have a body. And as it got to the top of my head, finally, as it was like the body was no longer there, we fully died, we fully passed on. It's so hard for me to explain in words what happened because it's not in words that you can explain what the feeling is. But the closest I would get is to say, basically, it was like I was nothingness. And not in the scary way or a empty way or anything like that. It was so incredibly beautiful and timeless, spaceless, and it was just like pure bliss. All I felt was just resounding bliss from the core of what I was, whatever that was. It wasn't anything. It wasn't any body or essence, but it was just space. Like, it was black. It was like I was in space, like pure black space in the cosmos, like ever expanding, as if like you would imagine the Big Bang to be like going out, right? And that was just me. Like I was just like, it was so trippy. Like I don't even know how to fully, I hope you can kind of grasp what I experienced, but as I had this experience, I had no conception of time and space. Again, I didn't know that I was me. I didn't know that I was Prasida. At the time, I was Jillian, actually, so I didn't even know I was Jillian in this body. And after how many hours, I don't even know, we got brought back down into the body by Paramahamsa Nithyananda. He led us back into the body, and I just came back, and for the first time, I actually had zero fear of dying. And actually, that was the entire point of the death meditation, because Swamiji says that if all fears are only the fear of death. And at first I didn't think this. I was like, well, what about fear of heights, or whatever, fear of rats or snakes, or everything is the fear of death. It all ties back to you feeling a fear of death. If you can remove the fear of death, you remove all fear from your body. You will never have to feel fear anymore in your life. Do you know how powerful that is? You have to never be scared of anything. Because if you can face death, if you can look death in the eyes when it comes to greet you, that is what makes you enlightened. That is what makes you powerful. Because like every person, when death knocks on their door, they run away. They're petrified. And what that creates in the next body, when you pass on, is not an easy process for you to take a new body and reincarnate. But if you can stare death in the face, he actually will leave you sometimes. He won't even come anymore. If you can look at him in the face, Yama is his name in Hinduism. You can stare Yama straight in the face, dead stare at him, look back at him. There are so few people that can do that he sometimes just turns away. So you can even escape death, right? Or at least the fear of it, right? So it was just this most freeing thing. It was like, wow. Every conception in society and culture that tells us about death and that it's this tragic thing, it's so sad, it's so heartbreaking, it's actually so false. Death is the most beautiful experience, and if we actually knew what it was, if we fully were living in reality of it, we would never cry at funerals. We would never mourn the dead. We would never have all these negative conceptions about what is good and bad and how death is such a bad traumatic experience. Is that death is just a department change. Death is just us going and taking the next body, and the only reason is that we've exhausted whatever we needed, karmas we needed to exhaust in this body. So it's such a beautiful thing. It's time for the new phase. It's like a snake shedding its skin. We just shed this skin, and our consciousness goes to the next place. And I think people are so scared of it, one, because they've never faced it. They've never looked at it head on, and when you look at it, you realize what a beautiful space it brings you to. This was one click I had. And also, I think with the one life belief that is taught in Western religions also creates a really damaging atmosphere for what people believe about death. Because if we think this is the only body we have, I understand why people would be so scared to die. But in the process of reincarnation, we realize we have infinite lives, infinite possibilities, infinite spaces to be in. There is never anything to fear because it's always just infinite recreation. So my outer body experience, my death experience, this ego death really changed me and altered me and made me have the realization also of the most important truth with it, which is I am so much more than this body. And that was one of the most powerful realizations I had when I was in India, is that I am not just this. Do you know how much that changes in your life when you realize you're not just this body? It changes everything. It literally changes everything. It changes your entire context of every interaction you have in your life. And that was just a little bit of my experience that I wanted to share with you guys, and to let you know that it is very, very possible to experience this without drugs, without any outside substances. And if anything, it is so much more powerful to experience in this way because you know it's real. You don't have to have anybody tell you that was just drug induced. You don't have to tell yourself that it was a chemical thing in your brain. No, it was a real tangible experience, and you can experience it too. It is very, very possible because it's reality that we are expansive consciousness. That is where the mumbo jumbo of spirituality talk isn't just bullshit. It's that we are that. We are oneness with everything. The thing inside us, the energy inside us, is the same energy that's in everything, and we can actually connect to that through realizing we are so much more than this body. And one way to do that is through this death process. It's not a scary thing. It's actually the most liberating experience. So thank you guys so much for listening, and I will get back to you very, very soon. I love you all. Thank you so much for tuning in again. Nithyananda.